Hello, everybody. This is the Get to Know You series. Yes, we are so excited for this. We have Jay and Sam with us, and we have just an awesome opportunity just to be able to get to know you guys even more so, build more of a relationship with you guys. And we definitely believe that you guys have a story and just such a powerful word for us today. And we're just so excited to see what God's going to do through you guys in the future, even so after this. So with that being said, we're just going to dive on into it. So just tell us who you guys are and what you do.
I'm Jayson. Been a part of Abundant Life for 3 years this year, and drive an 18-wheeler delivering groceries.
My name's Sam, and it's been probably about a year now that I've been a stay-at-home mom, and we're expecting our second child in May. So,
Yay, we're so excited for that. So why don't you guys just share, I know you just mentioned when you came to Abundant, but why don't you just share kind of about your journey in finding Jesus?
I guess the best place to start would be, I feel like it was a ice storm that we drove up, and we were going to attend that day, but I think we made the decision not to, one for the ice, and then also for the suits and ties we kind of saw. But I think it was more of ice. But we were just drawn to this church, really because of the words on the outside. It kind of led us to want to be here. But I think it's better for Sam to explain how we really got here.
well, wasn't the question how you came? Okay, we'll go on that side. So there were just people that God placed in our life during the time that we moved to Springfield that was just like, this is where you're supposed to go. So like we, had that time that we came. We're like, we don't want to do it. Moving to a new place and trying to explore new churches and get to know people is really uncomfortable. And so I think for a long time we were kind of like hesitant to doing that. But so when I was pregnant with my first daughter, Harper, I met Kim and Bethany, and they invited us to church. And it was during kind of a vulnerable time of uncertainty with my pregnancy and things like that. So it was just one of those things, like we had already considered going to the church, and then you meet somebody from there, and they were just so caring and friendly to us, so we knew that maybe this was a place that the Lord was leading us.
Yeah, that's really important, like you said, that relationship. And even this morning, Pastor Ben mentioned, when you are going through those hard times, who do you turn to? People that you have that relationship with, that you trust.
And I talked about this in our home group this past Wednesday. Our first experience here, we didn't feel like we were outsiders. We were greeted. I can't remember exactly who it was. I feel like it was a lot of different members. But it really kind of kept us here because really when Sam and I got together, it was her goal that was instilled within me that we were part of a church that wasn't too big to handle itself. And we were kind of attending churches that were a bit too big. It's not a bad thing, but if you can't connect with people, even on this level right here, what's the point of going?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really a big reason why we are doing these videos, is so that we can connect with each other, but also, for those who are watching this video, you'll get to know and have already started getting to know Sam and Jay, and you can come up and say hi anytime you want. So that really is a great bonus to it. One thing that Trey and I also felt, like you guys were just saying, when especially when we got engaged, is we really just wanted a church that would support our marriage and really just encourage us in that to just be the best marriage it could be. So what has that experience been for you guys, especially now with 2 kids soon, just really focusing on strengthening your marriage, and how has the church poured into that?
It's been tenfold as of lately for the past year of the small groups. But leading up to that, being a part of the marriage group, I can't recall the name right now, what they call it. Yeah, with Janine and Greg. That's been very helpful. But being able to just have the conversations with people in the church in different sectors of marriage, whether it's the finance or the love part or connecting within church. Like, it's been super helpful for us.
Yeah, definitely. What about you, Sam?
So yeah, we did the Symbis. I don't know if that's the official title of the class, but that was the test that we took when we were going through the marriage class, and it was really, the way they have it set up is nice because it's not one-on-one, but also you're not like in a group having to like get really deep about your relationship and all the nitty-gritty. But it's good to know that there are other people that care about investing in the relationship and like just the general things we talked about. It was really encouraging, and it like pointed out things to us that we needed to work on it. I think during the time of us kind of like having more online church and then like coming to house groups and just all these transitions we've been through, it's challenged us to grow spiritually together. So one way is like been being more intentional about prayer and just different ways that we invest our time as a couple. And then, taking Financial Peace University also helped us. We had no clue that we were going to face these like financial challenges that were coming up when we took Financial Peace. I think that was one of the first things that we did. But it really prepared us for what was to come. So I think the Lord's showing us when we take those steps to do those extra things, even though it can be a little bit more challenging on our schedule and there's more things in our life, if we're doing that intentionally, that He's going to reward us by the knowledge that we gain and the relationships that we gain.
One other big point, too, is being a part of this church. We've definitely stepped out of our comfort zone in a very big way. But there's also points, and it's been brought up maybe once a month, where someone will confess like they didn't feel like coming here, or feel like doing the thing that they're led to do here, whether it's worship or whatever they're doing here. And it just, we think about that if we hit a point where it's like, do we want to go today? Like, COVID could have almost taken us out of this church and kept us at home, but it's having a pastor that breathes life into the thoughts of negativity that you could be having and bringing you back in. I hope that makes sense. Yeah. But it was real for us. We almost made the decision just to stay home, but having a pastor that's going to believe that this is the place we need to be, and just listening to people share their testimony and really take it in and realize that we're not the only ones going through whatever it is on that day has been really awesome.
No, that's really good, because one thing that I've been reminded of, not only today, but I've been praying about too, is like, and Pastor Ben hit it on the head this morning, but ultimately it's like, we need to remember whenever we listen to God and we're asking for God, like, God, guide us, show us where to go and show us what to do. And that's half of it, right? Half of it is listening. The second half is doing it, right? And actually following through with it. And I forget what the verse is, but ultimately it talks about how it's like you go and look at yourself in the mirror every morning, or you go look at yourself in the mirror in general. And it's like when God tells you to go do something, and you're listening to God, that's you looking at yourself in the mirror. But when you decide to not follow through with it, that's like you walking away from the mirror and forgetting what you look like altogether. And it's natural for us to know exactly what we look like. It's natural for us to really take in, like, this is who I am. This is my physical face. This is what God created me to look like. And so why it's so easy for us to remember that, because that's an everyday thing for us. It's an everyday thing for us to look at ourselves in the mirror. So why is it so different than when God's telling us to do something, we're listening to him? That's an everyday thing. It's an everyday thing for us to listen. So why can't we bring in the other 50% and actually do it? And I see that what, honestly speaking, encouragement to you guys, because like you just hit it, like you just said, and like there's days where we're like, we're not going to go, like I think that's the majority of the people in the church. There's a lot of people who are like, they go throughout their life, and there might be that Sunday or multiple Sundays, and we're like, I'm not going to go, or small group, yeah. And that's you forgetting what God's calling you to do. I firmly believe in community, 100%. And I firmly believe that our church, Abundant Life, desires community in all of us. So kind of go through, and whatever you're about to say, like, just tell us, like, what does community mean to you guys?
It kicks the devil out. There's times in which when we're about to do these types of things right here, dive deeper, the devil tries to really come in and put a separation between us, and like we call it out. And it was called out today, like, how many people were here, it was amazing.
What was the question again?
What does community mean to you?
Community, yes. So, like what he was saying, like it gives you accountability, and you can kind of get more discernment on things that you're working through in your head, instead of just like thinking about it on your own and talking yourself into kind of more selfish ambition. You can kind of get more of a point of view of what maybe the Lord is saying. And just like building character, being accountable to people.
That's really good. That really is. So Jay, earlier we're going to kind of transition a little bit, but Jay, you were talking how you drive an 18-wheeler, and I want to give you an opportunity to really just talk about your career and what God is doing in your career. And I'm kind of challenging you at the same time, but. I firmly believe that there's a lot of people who have been in your position before, myself included. And so kind of just tell us your journey with your career, what that looks like, and really where you want God to take you with it.
Pastor Ben said something today of loving his boss, if I heard him correctly. And that is what I've had to do, is love the boss. And put everything aside and just stay focused on what that task is that day, just to get me home. But throughout my career, I've wanted it to be, or desired it to be, where it's put the hard work in and then reap the benefits of putting in that hard work. But like in this season, there's a need for what's happening just with the pandemic, and nobody really wants to work in what we do. So there's been a real need. So, the Lord has really said, just stay put and just deliver the goods, and we're going to show you the way, or I will show you the way. But over the 8 years of doing this career, there's just been this change, and that change is just the mentality of the public. I don't know. It's maybe everyone's in their selfish ways. I don't know what it is, but I've kind of taken my thoughts and controlled them, and it's been mostly through podcasts. So it just kind of keeps me on track each day, because every second there's a decision being made that I'm working. And some days are easier, some days are harder. Obviously, if the weather's bad, it's not going to be the greatest day, but then you just remember, I'm delivering food. It's what the people need. And where I believe the Lord is really shining his light, and I have to almost lean on members of the church to really see what this means, is something instructor or educational, something in that realm. It's really been there. And there's one member, Nathan, and just watching his walk in faith. It's like, if he could do that, I can do that too. Yeah. Just take that leap of faith. But just right now, it's kind of just stay put. Yeah. Just keep doing, keep learning. So, yeah, it's leaning more towards the educational side of driving, whatever that may look like.
And that's good. That's really, really good. So I used to work in the same kind of industry that you are in right now, and it is a cutthroat industry. It really is. And that trucking industry, it's a cutthroat industry. It's a behind the scenes industry, honestly, and it's a challenging one at that. And I've never been a physical driver like yourself, but I've had numerous conversations with drivers that isolation is a big factor for them, and if you're not careful and if you're not paying attention to it, it can take you down a path of a lot of bitterness and a lot of destruction. And so that's encouraging to hear what you're talking about. But
with that isolation, that's a good point. There's a lot of it, and we're blessed in the kind of daily driving that we get to interact with people, but there's some pretty deep relationships there. And even when I was over the road, we create deep relationships. Know people's family, their kids. I remember at Dino, we were up in Canada, and someone's wife was having a major surgery, and both me and my co-driver prayed with him, and it was just it's a weird thing, but here we are in negative 30-degree weather, and tell him it's going to be all right, and really, from the start of my career at Trailliner, a very Christian company, their sticker on the back of their trailer says it's not the man upstairs, it's Jesus Christ. And that's been instilled for 8 years. Just every time you see the back of that trailer, you just are reminded he's not the man upstairs, it's Jesus Christ. And that's it. That was probably the biggest blessing of working for that company, to set up that foundation, to combat that isolation.
yeah, and that just shows. I mean, there's always room for Jesus. Like Jesus can always come, no matter where you're at, no matter if you're by yourself or with a co-driver in your own truck. Like, God's going to meet you there. Like, God's going to pursue, and He's going to be able to use you. And I think that's such a good spot too to remind people, is like, if you're by yourself, and if you're just alone and you're feeling isolated, God can still use you. God can still make a purpose with you, and He still has a desire for you. And so, Sam, do you have anything to add on to that?
I think just kind of something Pastor Ben said today, which is interesting. It kind of lines up with our conversation. Like, letting your job control you instead of like seeing what kind of things that the Lord is doing in your job, no matter how difficult it is. Because I think all sectors of work right now are so difficult. You think of the teachers and just leaders in companies that have to make decisions to lay off people and things like that. If you don't have the Lord in it guiding you and showing you kind of hope through the difficult times, then it's just going to be that I have to work to live and just, work, repeat, and there's no joy in it. So I think keeping the Lord first, and no matter what you're doing, and, I've seen Jay doing that, and even realigning relationships that he has with people that might not be as great of influence, so that he can be more of an influence and not be so influenced by those people to kind of drag them down. And that's, again, maybe comes to community when you're having people that are holding you accountable to where your way of thinking, believing truth over lies, to keep you in the right kind of frame of mind, even as you work.
Yeah, well, and something that, I think we've always been told, but that is really real right now too, is you can't pour out if you're not being poured into, and so that is one of the big reasons for house churches, or the home group, that we're doing, is because it allows an opportunity to be poured into. That's kind of why we went the model of, if you are serving or leading a home group, then you're also in one being poured into. It has to be kind of a twofold thing, and it's not like a random requirement they just pulled out of thin air, but because you have to be poured into to be able to pour out, because otherwise we get burnt out even in our jobs or whatever. And so that's where the benefit of this community here that we're doing really pours over, not only in our church life, our ministry life, but in every area of our lives, right? So as we just kind of start wrapping it up here, is there any other, lessons God's teaching you, or specific scriptures or anything that has really just been relevant in your guys' life recently that has made an impact on you? Or a podcast, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, you can pick any of them if there's a lot, whatever you guys feel led to share.
I think there was a devotional I was listened to or read or something, but it talked about like the mountains and the valleys. And so one of the points that was in the devotional was the Lord is probably more present in the valley than he is in the mountaintop. And so we've been going through a lot of valleys in recent times, and I'm just grateful that I've been able to feel the presence of the Lord. And there's been times in my life that there's been bad things happen, and I really leaned on the Lord. And then there are times that I've just kind of went away from the Lord and was just like, why are you letting this happen? I'm going to be mad about it. I'm going to do my own thing. And it usually puts me in a place where it takes me 10 times the work to get back to a place of joy and peace. So just that idea of whether you're in a valley right now, or you feel like you're on the mountain and you have control of your life, just letting the Lord kind of lead you, and not leaning in your own understanding and the things that are going on.
Lately, it's been more of if I have this kind of thought of this doesn't make sense, or it'd be more scripture based, but I tell Sam whatever it may be. One of the recent things was tithing. I had this other teaching of it, and I kind of remember Sam saying something along the lines of, we just have to have the faith. I'm thinking, but I have this other thought, I have faith in this thought, but then it rang no, we just have to have faith that pretty much just do it the way we're being taught now, not the way you were taught previous. And that was a huge eye opener for me, and just really in our marriage. That little change, it just clicked. I can't remember like when it clicked. It just clicked, and now it's like I can't see life the old way of whatever it was that other preacher or pastor taught me about tithing. Now I see it Pastor Ben's way, or the church's way, I should say. God's way. I don't know.
Pastor
God's
Ben,
way.
no.
God's way. God's way.
Yes. No, that's a great point. Something that have been really thinking about kind of this whole conversation, something that Jared's been talking about with the youth and also in our new young adults group that just started is the agreement of the Bible, Scripture, the Holy Spirit, and your community. And if there's something in there that isn't in agreement with all three, then something's off, right? Whatever it is, maybe your community's not right in that example, or maybe you're not letting the Holy Spirit lead you. But it requires all three of those components in order to move forward and know that that's really what God has for you, or whatever it is. So that's just something that reminded me as you guys were talking, and that I can see that you are really seeking all three of those in really every area of your life, and particularly finances, like you just mentioned. But that all three of those are in agreement.
The other thing is the mom's group that she leads. Watching our daughter have that community when, like, she doesn't go to daycare, she gets to be home with mom, and just that once a week activity time that she gets to have with other kids, and then just kind of watching her grow into what she's becoming and wanting to be around these kids and not having that shyness that I really thought that she'd grow up to have, because I had it growing up. But just to be able to allow God to work in our daughter, and even just watching her pray, like she literally will pray. And that's like the coolest thing ever. So cool.
Well, unless if you guys have anything else to share, you guys good? Okay, well, just want to say thank you. You guys are awesome, and we definitely believe you guys are solid leaders within our church. I know that this right here is pouring into so many people's lives. It's a really relevant and practical thing that goes on for multiple people. So with that being said, though, this is the Get to Know You series, and the whole point of this is just be able to allow us as a church, as a community, and ultimately as a family to grow and just bond with one another, where we are able to just go out and pour into more people's lives and just be able to hear the stories of so many other people. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. Thank you for all that you have been a part of, and hope you have a great rest of your night.